Another day, another shocking twist in the entertainment world. But this time, the storm isn't about Diddy alone. The real chaos began the moment 50 Cent released his explosive Netflix documentary, a project that didn't just expose decades of secrets, it sent a shockwave through Hollywood so powerful that celebrities began scrambling behind the scenes, desperately trying to ban it before the public could see what they'd been avoiding for years. And the craziest part? The names panicking the loudest aren't the ones people expected. Some of the backlash came from figures who, until now, had nothing to say about the allegations surrounding Diddy. Suddenly, they're loud, defensive, emotional, and very, very suspicious. Because the moment this documentary dropped, it wasn't the viewers who panicked. It was the celebrities. And according to 50 Cent, several high-profile figures immediately began making calls, sending messages, and doing everything in their power to stop this project from spreading any further. So if you're watching this, buckle in. Because what's happening behind the scenes is even more chaotic than what's in the documentary itself. And as you'll see in this video, the people trying to silence the documentary might just be revealing more about themselves than they realize. Stick around to the end, because the most mind-blowing part involves Jay-Z, and why his name has been wiped clean from the story entirely. But first, let's talk about the moment everything exploded. When 50 Cent's Netflix documentary dropped, nobody, not even the producers, expected the numbers it would pull. 21.8 million views in 6 days. To put that into perspective, that's more than Stranger Things brought in the same week. A celebrity conflict doc beating one of Netflix's biggest original shows. Hollywood didn't know whether to clap or panic, because this wasn't a drama, a recreation, or a surface-level recap. This was evidence. This was testimony. This was footage that insiders believed would never see the light of day. And suddenly, the entire entertainment industry was watching it unfold. This documentary wasn't just popular, it was loud. Every platform, every timeline, every trending list had the same headline. 50 Cent exposes decades of secrets. And once people realized how deep the documentary went, from recordings to witnesses to behind-the-scenes footage of Diddy in the days before his arrest, the interest skyrocketed. But the bigger the audience grew, the more certain celebrities began to panic, because the documentary didn't just expose Diddy, it exposed the ecosystem around him. The people who were there, the ones who stayed quiet, the ones who benefited. Behind closed doors, Hollywood insiders began whispering about which names might come up next, which old photos or recordings might resurface, whose past might be dragged back into the spotlight. And according to 50 Cent, some celebrities reacted so aggressively that they tried to convince Netflix to pull the entire documentary offline. That alone tells you everything, because if someone has nothing to hide, why would they be terrified of a documentary that isn't about them? But the most surprising reaction came from someone almost nobody had on their radar, Marlon Wayans. Of all people, Marlon became one of the loudest defenders of Diddy, stepping forward with comments that left viewers confused, suspicious, and wondering why he was so invested in protecting a man facing decades of allegations. And once 50 Cent saw Marlon trying to shift the narrative, he didn't hesitate to clap back. During an interview on a popular LA radio show, Marlon Wayans confidently criticized 50 Cent for releasing the documentary, claiming that 50 was kicking a man while he's already down. He spoke about karma, about redemption, and about how Diddy needed time to sit with God instead of being exposed publicly. The comments didn't just sound emotional, they sounded personal, and that's what made people raise their eyebrows. Why was Marlon suddenly so passionate about Diddy's reputation? Why was he so determined to defend someone facing a stack of allegations? The energy didn't match what anyone expected from him. Viewers began dissecting every interview, every sentence, every tone shift, and the deeper they looked, the more questions they had. Was Marlon protecting a friend? Was he trying to protect himself? Or was he afraid of what else might surface if the documentary continued gaining traction? Because as more footage and testimonies emerged, the public started connecting dots no one had connected before. Dots that placed certain celebrities in circles, events, in environments that looked very different in hindsight. And 50 Cent noticed it too. He immediately called out Marlon on Instagram, posting a photo of Marlon in drag from White Chicks, with a caption that didn't just mock him, it hinted that Marlon was aligning himself with Diddy for a reason. 50 essentially implied, you're only defending him because you recognize the environment he created, maybe because you were part of it. That accusation alone sent social media into chaos. People began pulling up old interviews, old clips, old photos, trying to understand what Marlon might be trying to hide. But things got even stranger when Marlon doubled down, appearing again to warn 50 Cent about karma, almost as if publicly defending Diddy wasn't enough. This wasn't normal celebrity commentary. This wasn't a casual opinion. This looked emotional, pressured, maybe even defensive. The more Marlon talked, the more suspicious he looked. Even Charlemagne Tha God jumped in, calling out the hypocrisy of criticizing 50 Cent when multiple networks had already released Diddy content long before this. Charlemagne pointed out that nobody said a word when Hulu, TMZ, and Peacock dropped their own Diddy exposés. No outrage, no karma speeches, no lectures about kicking a man when he's down. But the moment 50 Cent released his version, suddenly everyone wanted to talk about morality and spirituality. That double standard alone made people question Marlon's intentions. It felt like selective outrage. And selective outrage almost always comes from fear. But Marlon wasn't the only one reacting strangely. The next celebrity to push back was someone who has a long, messy history, with 50 Cent Ja Rule. And unlike Marlon, Ja Rule's reaction wasn't subtle. He immediately started posting cryptic comments, shady jokes, and tweets aimed at discrediting the documentary, creating doubt, and suggesting 50's motives were personal rather than investigative. But here's the problem. The more Ja Rule talked, the more suspicious he looked. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, took things further and claimed that Ja Rule himself had been connected to some of the same situations that are now coming to light. According to Gene, Ja Rule had been present at questionable events and private circles during his early career, which means the documentary's themes might hit a lot closer to home than fans realized. So when Ja Rule started shading 50, people weren't surprised. They were suspicious. Was Ja defending Diddy out of loyalty, or was he trying to keep attention away from his own history? 50 Cent responded to Ja Rule with the same energy he's brought to their feud for 2 decades. Quick, sharp, and unfiltered. And each response only amplified the idea that Ja Rule wasn't defending Diddy. He was defending himself. Hollywood insiders began whispering that Ja might be one of the celebrities hoping Netflix takes the documentary down quietly. After all, if more footage or witness stories surface from those past years, who knows which artists might be implicated next? But as chaotic as the reactions were, nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared viewers for the biggest mystery in the entire documentary: the complete disappearance of Jay-Z. Not one mention, not one photo, not one clip, nothing. A 4-part documentary about Diddy, a man who worked beside Jay-Z for decades, built empires with him, appeared at events with him, and shaped hip-hop culture alongside him, somehow managed to erase Jay-Z completely. And that silence, so it wasn't just loud, it was suspicious. Fans across TikTok and Twitter immediately noticed the omission, with one viral video asking, "Where is Jay-Z? How do you cover Diddy's entire life and not include his closest industry partner?" It didn't make sense. You cannot tell Diddy's story without telling Jay-Z's. Their careers, their parties, their business deals, they were deeply intertwined. So people began forming theories. Some believe 50 Cent cut a behind-the-scenes deal with Jay-Z and Beyoncé. Others think Jay-Z's legal team stepped in before filming to ensure he wasn't included. And then, old interviews from Jaguar Wright resurfaced. Interviews where she predicted that after Diddy, Jay-Z would be the next major industry figure to face scrutiny. Suddenly, the internet began asking whether Jay-Z was intentionally removed from the documentary to protect him from allegations that haven't been fully exposed yet. The theories grew even louder when viewers realized something else. When major scandals broke a few months ago, both Jay-Z and Diddy's names were linked in multiple rumors. But in the documentary, Jay-Z is treated as if he never existed. That kind of erasure doesn't happen by accident. Someone requested it, someone negotiated it, someone made sure his name never appeared on screen. And that raises the biggest question of all: why? Before we dive deeper into the Jay-Z mystery, and trust me, that part gets unbelievable, it's worth asking the audience one thing. What do you think explains Jay-Z's disappearance from this documentary? Drop your theory in the comments. This is one of the biggest unanswered questions surrounding the entire situation. Jay-Z's total disappearance from the documentary wasn't just a narrative gap. It became the loudest red flag of all. Viewers started combing through old interviews, old photos, old collaborations, realizing that Jay-Z and Diddy's careers were practically intertwined for decades. Business ventures, parties, label alliances, charity events, the two were inseparable in the public eye. And yet, in a documentary meant to chronicle Diddy's most defining moments, the most powerful collaborator he'd ever had was wiped clean from the story. People online weren't buying that this was just a creative decision. No producer, no editor, no storyteller would ever approve removing the second most relevant figure in Diddy's timeline, unless there was pressure, serious pressure, to keep his name out of it. Because if Jay-Z's name showed up, viewers would start asking deeper questions. What did he know? What did he see? Why did their relationship shift so drastically in recent years? And more importantly, why are there rumors that Jay-Z quietly created distance long before this documentary dropped? One TikTok creator put it perfectly. Jay-Z isn't missing because he wasn't part of the story. He's missing because he might be too big a part of the story. That theory gained even more traction when people remembered Jaguar Wright's chilling prediction, where she claimed that Jay-Z would be next once Diddy's empire began to crumble. For years, people brushed her off. But now, her warnings don't sound like rambling anymore. They sound like someone who knew exactly how deep the connections went, and who wasn't afraid to say it out loud. And if viewers thought the Jay-Z mystery was the most unsettling part, they were wrong, because the documentary also featured something no one expected Netflix, or 50 Cent, to ever show. Recorded discussions involving Keefe D, one of the central figures in the Tupac case. This wasn't fan speculation or barbershop storytelling. These were recordings tied to federal investigators, clips that, allegedly, had never been seen by the general public until now. In those recordings, Keefe D claimed that someone with enormous influence, offered a large sum of money to take out both Tupac and Suge Knight. He described the offer, the pressure, and the aftermath in a way that shook viewers to their core. This wasn't a documentary dramatizing rumors. This was a documentary showing taped conversations tied to one of the biggest unsolved cases in music history. And the moment these recordings aired, people across Hollywood panicked. Because if the Tupac case ever reopens, and based on the reaction online, it absolutely might, then the investigation doesn't just touch one or two people. It touches anyone who moved in those circles at that time. People who attended the same parties, people who heard the same whispers, people who benefited from Tupac's fall and Biggie's rise. When cases reopen, investigators don't just look at one timeline, they look at everything connected. That's when a new wave of celebrities allegedly began pushing back against the documentary. Not because they were involved, but because they didn't want their names resurfacing in a decades-old federal investigation. The documentary went deeper, connecting Diddy's rising fame to the moment his public life became inseparable from controversy. One segment revisited the tragic City College event from his early promoting days, a crowd-crush incident that left multiple victims and raised serious questions about responsibility and negligence. The documentary highlighted how Diddy's handling of that tragedy laid the foundation for how he operated in the industry. Big promises, minimal accountability, and an image that mattered more than the people behind the scenes. But then came one of the most unsettling revelations in the entire documentary: the story surrounding Biggie's final days. Kirk Burrow, Diddy's former partner and co-founder of Bad Boy Records, revealed something that stunned audiences. According to him, Biggie had a fully scheduled trip to the UK, flights booked, preparations made, a trip that could have taken him away from the Danger Building in Los Angeles. But at the last minute, Diddy allegedly insisted Biggie cancel the trip and stay in LA. Days later, Biggie was killed. Kirk claimed that Diddy even charged Biggie's funeral costs to Biggie's own estate. Imagine that. The man who built your career, the man you called brother, taking the funeral bill and handing it back to your own grieving family. It raised a question too dark for many fans to process. Was Biggie a friend, or was he an investment? The documentary suggested that Biggie's death became a pivotal moment for Diddy's career. Not a loss, but a launching point. His tribute song, his public appearances, his emotional interviews, all skyrocketed him into a new level of fame. The public saw grief. Insiders saw strategy. As these revelations spread across the internet, panic grew among industry figures who had been close to those events. People who were backstage, people who had been in the rooms nobody talks about. Once again, Hollywood wasn't reacting because they disagreed with the documentary. They were reacting because they were afraid of what might come next. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Diddy's legal team was scrambling so aggressively that insiders began leaking details. His attorneys sent a cease and desist letter demanding Netflix remove the documentary immediately. They accused the creators of using unauthorized footage, private recordings, and sensitive material that was never meant to be seen by the public. But 50 Cent and director Alexandria Stapleton pushed right back. They claimed they had obtained everything legally and that every clip had been cleared for release. That's when they exposed something jaw-dropping. Much of the footage came from a videographer that Diddy himself hired. A videographer who followed Diddy around during the most chaotic moments of his legal and personal downfall. Diddy didn't just fail to stop the documentary, he accidentally helped create it. One of the clips showed Diddy in his private spaces on the phone with his lawyer, trying to figure out how to shape public perception. His voice didn't sound like a man trying to protect the truth. It sounded like a man trying to protect an empire. And now, because of his own footage, he had no control over the narrative at all. This point in the documentary, viewers weren't shocked by what they saw. They were shocked by what Diddy filmed willingly. He believed he would eventually release a documentary showing his innocence, the same way celebrities have done for years. Instead, the footage became evidence against him. Hollywood had one response: panic. Meanwhile, people online began pointing out something deeper. The celebrities trying to ban the documentary weren't trying to protect Diddy. They were trying to protect themselves, because once one industry giant falls, the spotlight doesn't stop. It spreads. But the situation took an even stranger turn when Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, came forward again. Gene revealed that he had spoken to 50 Cent personally, that he was supposed to appear in the documentary, and that he had information that could have made the project even more explosive. Gene said the director treated him disrespectfully and tried to minimize what he asked to be compensated. But the most shocking part was this. Gene claimed that the director told him 50 Cent had no control over the final documentary. That statement raised a massive question. If 50 Cent wasn't in full control, who was? Was it Netflix? Was it another producer? Was it someone with influence? Someone who wanted certain things removed? Someone who didn't want Jay-Z's name mentioned? Someone who didn't want Gene Deal's footage included? Suddenly, the mystery deepened. If 50 Cent wasn't the one deciding what went into the documentary, then the project might be shaped by forces the public knows nothing about. Forces that might be protecting certain names while exposing others. Forces that could twist a narrative behind the scenes in a way no viewer would ever detect. And that brings us to the biggest question of all. Who is really pulling the strings behind the documentary? And what are they trying to hide? Before diving into the final section, the darkest, most intense part of this entire story, Drop your thoughts below. Do you think the documentary was edited to protect certain celebrities? And if so, who? As the documentary continued dominating Netflix's charts, one thing became increasingly clear. This wasn't just a story about Diddy anymore. It was a story about the entire entertainment industry, the secrets it hid, the people it protected, and the power structures that allowed certain figures to operate untouched for decades. And the louder the documentary got, the more nervous Hollywood became. What started as a simple expose quickly turned into a mirror held up to the industry, reflecting everything it never wanted the public to see. Behind the scenes, insiders began leaking details about frantic calls to publicists, lawyers, and PR crisis teams. Some celebrities reportedly demanded reputational monitoring, trying to find out whether their names or images appeared anywhere in the documentary. Others allegedly reached out to Netflix executives directly, hoping to delay the documentary's push or quietly adjust what scenes were promoted. Even talent agencies began advising clients to avoid commenting on the project altogether, not because they disagreed with its content, but because acknowledging it might prompt someone to dig deeper into their own proximity to the events being exposed. Every powerful circle in Hollywood seemed to be whispering the same thing. If this documentary opens one door, how many others could open next? Because once the public sees how one empire operated, they start questioning every empire. And that's the kind of scrutiny Hollywood has spent decades trying to avoid. As media analysts picked apart the documentary's structure, they began noticing patterns. What was emphasized, what wasn't mentioned, and which names were erased entirely. This only fueled the theory that the final cut was shaped by influences beyond just 50 Cent. The mysterious absence of Jay-Z, the conflicting story from Gene Deal, and the speculation about Netflix executives protecting certain figures all pointed toward a hidden hand guiding the narrative. Some people suggested that the documentary wasn't just about revealing the truth. It was about controlling which parts of the truth were allowed to come out. And once viewers realized that, the panic surrounding the documentary made even more sense. Certain celebrities weren't afraid because the documentary accused them of anything. They were afraid because the documentary reminded the public of the circles they moved in, circles that, under the wrong spotlight, could be interpreted in ways that damage careers, legacies, and billion-dollar brands. In Hollywood, perception is everything. And this documentary wasn't just changing perception, it was shattering illusion. Meanwhile, 50 Cent continued posting updates online, revealing view counts, public reactions, and screenshots of messages sent to him from people trying to reason with him. Whether those messages came from celebrities, executives, or other insiders remains unclear. 50 Cent didn't name everyone, but the tone of his posts made one thing obvious. The pressure behind the scenes was enormous, and in response, he doubled down. He celebrated every milestone, reposted every viral moment, and continued teasing even more content. To him, the pushback wasn't a threat. It was proof the documentary hit the right nerves, proof that the people who wanted it banned were exactly the people the public needed to pay attention to. He reminded viewers that remaining silent allows powerful people to operate unchecked, that documentaries like this aren't about drama, they're about accountability, that the entertainment industry shouldn't get to decide which victims matter and which don't. And that message resonated deeply with viewers. As more people watched the documentary, more stories surfaced from individuals claiming they witnessed behavior that had always been dismissed as industry culture. For the first time, ordinary viewers, fans, and even former employees felt empowered to speak publicly about things they never shared before. Not because they wanted attention, but because they finally felt seen. The documentary became more than a Netflix release. It became a conversation, one Hollywood never wanted to have. And as the conversation grew, so did the questions about who tried to bury the documentary and why. Marlon Wayans' emotional defense of Diddy no longer looked like compassion. It looked like fear. Ja Rule's criticism didn't look like rivalry. It looked like self-protection. The silence from certain high-ranking industry figures didn't look coincidental. It looked strategic. and Jay-Z's erasure, it no longer seemed like an editorial decision. It felt like a negotiation. The deeper the public dug, the more the documentary appeared to reveal an uncomfortable truth. The entertainment industry has an unspoken rule: protect the powerful, silence the inconvenient, and hope the public never learns what happens behind closed doors. But this time, the doors weren't just cracked open, they were kicked in. Then came the legal fallout. Diddy's attorneys aggressively attacked the film, sending letters, threatening lawsuits, and claiming the footage was never authorized for public use. Yet the documentary's creators insisted they had the rights, that nothing illegal occurred, that everything shown was verified and cleared. But the real twist wasn't the footage itself, it was where the footage came from. Diddy documented his own downfall. This revealed an irony that no writer could ever invent. The same footage Diddy intended to use to restore his reputation became the footage exposing his behavior to millions. He had hired a videographer to follow him, record him, capture his private moments, believing he would one day release a documentary proving his innocence. But instead, those tapes helped build a documentary showing the exact opposite. And now, because of his own attempt to control the narrative, he lost control of it entirely. Industry veterans began calling this the most catastrophic PR backfire in modern celebrity history. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a self-inflicted wound, and everyone around Diddy knew it. That's when the final wave of Hollywood panic began. If the footage that powerful people record themselves can be repurposed and exposed, what other recordings or photos exist that could one day resurface? What private conversations, old videos, or archived files might another producer uncover? What other untouchable figures might suddenly find themselves under the same spotlight? The documentary signaled a new era, one where evidence doesn't stay buried and influence doesn't guarantee protection. In this new landscape, anyone with a past connected to Diddy's world, whether lightly or deeply, had reason to worry. And perhaps that is why so many celebrities tried to stop the documentary. Not because they were guilty, but because they knew how close they once stood to someone who was. Hollywood's panic wasn't about the documentary's content. It was about what the documentary symbolized: the end of silence. By the time the final episode ended, viewers felt a shift, not just in how they saw Diddy, but in how they saw the entire entertainment industry. For years, people believed that fame insulated celebrities from consequences, that influence could erase accountability. But this documentary proved the opposite. Once the truth begins to surface, even the most powerful figures can't run from it. And that's why 50 Cent's documentary matters more than any lawsuit or controversy surrounding it. It wasn't created to destroy careers, it was created to expose patterns, to show the world that the entertainment industry's darkest secrets don't stay hidden forever, that victims deserve to be heard, that fame doesn't excuse misconduct, and that silence isn't protection, it's complicity. As the credits rolled, viewers were left with a question more powerful than any allegation, any rumor, or any leaked footage. If this is what one documentary can reveal, what happens when the next one drops? Because in an industry built on secrets, the truth doesn't fade, it waits. And now that the world is watching, the truth is finally catching up. So let me know in the comments. Who do you think tried the hardest to stop this documentary, and why? Your theories might be closer to the truth than you think.